Hi, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. Sarah Wentworth is joining us today. Sarah and I worked together back at Fannie Mae as consultants with a number of other folks on the team, two of which you've met, Mike Wasey and Stephen Aramoni. And we're going to talk today about searching for a new gig. Sarah was, Sarah will explain, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of background there. And we're going to have a really interesting conversation today. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do doing this. And a word from our lawyers: the positions and opinions expressed on the Higher Ground podcast are those of myself, Tom Castriota, your host, and our guest, Sarah in this case, and don't necessarily reflect the points of view of their blah 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 blah. Anyway. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Higher Ground podcast. I'm your host, Tom Castriota, and I wanted to introduce my friend and colleague for many years, Sarah Wentworth. Sarah and I worked together as consultants at the capital markets company, where the client we spent probably the most time at was Fannie Mae. And rather than me trying to get Sarah's illustrious background correct, I'll let you do that yourself. Sarah, would you please introduce yourself to our one listener?
Thank you. So my name is Sarah Wentworth, and I have been working as a data solutions consultant for, several decades. And yes, I work with Tom at Fannie Mae, and I actually work for Tom. He's being most humble, and I can tell you that in my many years as a consultant working in the data space, that there's been an enormous evolution of the data. We used to be just happy if we could keep data in the system, and then when Microsoft came up with the JET, which is if you know it, you know it, and we could suddenly get data out of the system. It was a mind-blowing experience, and there's been no looking back. This space is cheap now. Performance, memory is cheap, and there's no end in sight. I mean, data centers is where it's just exploding.
It's amazing, right? I just bought on Costco a 4 terabyte SSD drive for like my video content and whatnot. $220. It's as almost as fast as the drive in my Mac. Absolutely. And I'm running out of storage because these video files and whatnot are big, but it's like, you're right. We used to talk about storage price going down, but like now I've got 4 terabytes in my pocket. Like, how does that even make sense?
In your pocket, right? And so at some point here, we really do need to discuss the whole notion of, having low value, high volume data. Because we've become what I call the large handbag syndrome, and all you gals out there, you know exactly what I mean. We fill it up.
I think you're going to have to, I maybe don't have to explain that in great depth, but like the large handbag, let me guess, is just that, where you've got fill it with everything under, there's maybe a sink in there.
Just in case.
Yeah, that sounds right. So maybe the underlying principle that we want to get to a better job of maybe is, how do we organize it? How do we keep it together better? That kind of thing. Is that sort of the
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we talk about data management, everyone yawns, but here we are. We're just a boatload of stuff, and it's only going to get bigger. I mean, and it's, well, what's the retrieval of it? How do you spin it? When you spin it, how do you know it's trustworthy?
Yeah.
How do you know you're protecting it?
Yeah.
Protecting it, meaning it's its own entity. Could there be a legal case for I give you my data because I sign off saying, hey, Amazon, you can use my data as you need to. And then you use my data and it affects my life, but it's not me anymore. So does it have the right to affect me anymore? I mean, these are all very challenging questions. Yeah. And we're just beginning to, break the door on it.
Yeah. I heard just this morning that I guess Meta is releasing an update to their glasses, the Ray-Bans that they're doing, that are now able to, or at least they're going to be able to, or will be able to, not just like surf. I guess I don't know them, but like you can say like, oh, I'm talking to, it recognizes you. Oh, that's Sarah Wentworth, and give you like sort of information like in real time that that's you. It's like unbelievable, like how quick the identity is. Your identity, your personal information is
Mhm.
accessible to, companies, that's got 3 billion people using the software every day. It's
Absolutely.
insane. Yeah.
There's a great article was published last week. It was well, I think the title involves eyeball dystopia. So there's a
It's a good title.
it's concerning
What was the gist?
that it can be used to not only track you as an identity, but track you as a personality,
Interesting.
track who you are when nobody's watching, track you, your inner character.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I would say like China's done a very good job of, surveillance of their population for many, many years. It's just part of the fabric of their society. But we always believed that wasn't going to be the case here in America. We've got rights, but as I'm learning from working with the EU and the Digital Markets Act and a lot of the regulations around handling of data, and that their rules apply in Europe, but they don't apply here. Like I can sometimes, depending on the company's policies, I can't formally request my data, or I can't have it deleted, for example, because we in the United States have very few privacy laws. So,
We really don't have privacy laws. It's largely driven by the SEC, and then NIST has some standard
mm,
laws in place. But I've done quite a bit of research around
mm,
this, and I took two programs last year. I got involved in, and one was through MIT and applied data science, which
mm.
gave you a hands-on boot camp. Crazy jump in hard, and boy, certainly forgot a lot in math.
Yeah.
And then the other one was from MIT, and it was on the ethics of AI. And when we talk about, when we go back to this eyeball dystopia, is that AI now has the ability to look within your eyes and see things that you may not even know about yourself.
Wow, that's interesting. Like what you're thinking based on facial expressions, and like you're trying not to reveal something, that kind of.
Absolutely, they say the eyes don't lie. So
Yeah.
it's yes, so we've come. We're going so fast. We may not understand the ramifications.
Yeah.
And there, you mentioned in a few laws. There's really no real laws in the United States, and nor was there for any data privacy. I mean, we have HIPAA. We have laws in the domain space of healthcare, medical care, but that's really in just sharing the information. It's not in how, say, insurance is using
Mm,
our information. Because they're a risk model is what
mm.
their business model is. And so it's yeah, to your point that the UK, the European nations have done a much better job at the GDPR, and now they have expanded into AI regulation, and it would behoove us to take this as seriously as we possibly
Oh,
can.
absolutely. Yeah. For those folks in California, I know CCPA has done is sort of a version of the DMA, of Digital Markets Act. They're trying to do at least a better job of
Yes.
protecting data. But again, that's one state among many. So I do know that there have been lots of lawsuits against the big tech companies, and they're suing them for X, Y, and Z. But I'm not sure necessarily that gets us to a national policy like we see in these other countries and nations. But we Go ahead, please, please.
Unless we have a national policy that has the serious penalty of
Yeah,
the GDPR of 10% of the revenue. I mean, that's hefty.
yeah,
We're not going to take it seriously, but we're a capitalistic nation. We should not forget.
yeah. No, there's a profit incentive for sure.
Mhm.
But we've gone right away into some fun topics.
Yeah.
Maybe we could rewind slightly and tell me about what you've been up to since Capcom. I know that was a little while ago.
Mhm.
Tell me about your journey between then and now.
Certainly. Well, I'll touch on personal first.
Sure.
Um, I before Capco, back up, I was with Bearing Point in the early 2000s, and I loved Bearing Point. I loved it. I loved the people I worked for. I loved the work we were doing. And for those that know, they know we went bankrupt. And I was in the commercial space up until that point. And by the good grace of some people that really cared about me living here on the coast of Maine, back up 20 some odd years ago. And they, in literally like prior to 5 o'clock that day, they transferred me into the federal space.
Ah,
And I was acquired alongside our government contracts at auction, at the federal bench
okay.
into Deloitte.
So you went from Bearing Point, and then the assets were sold along with you, an asset
Yeah,
to the federal group
right.
in Deloitte.
Right, and I will say thrust into the federal domain, this federal
Mm.
sector from commercial sector, and I was part of about 100 other employees that were moved over into the Deloitte space. And, Deloitte made a brilliant move. They bought us at auction for I think like 475 million, and we had over 800 million on the books, guaranteed federal work. So
Contracts,
it was a smart move. But I'll tell you, it was a rugged move for me. I was, they relocated me. They were very good to me,
yeah.
and I think I didn't know to ask the questions, but I was put into a position of not understanding that the federal space is dramatically different from the commercial space.
Yeah.
But I made it. I made it. I made some amazing friends. I worked with some very cool people, and I was able to start a community of practice in Deloitte for semantic technology. And I will always be grateful to a gentleman by the name of Paul DeGaulle, who he was my boss, and we called him Papa Paul.
That's
Yeah,
great.
and he opened a lot of doors for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was
Tell me
awesome.
about what was the difference between, like, I've not ever worked for the federal government. I've not been on the federal contracts.
Yeah.
There was a big difference. What are some of the things that you noticed that were different in that experience?
Utterly different, completely different business model.
Mm.
One is for profit and performance, and then the government model was for the service for the most.
Mm.
And so, yes, performance, but the service for the most. It was always you're thinking with a large S solution. And one of the biggest projects I worked on with them was was the Department of Treasury's FinCEN, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network.
Oh, wow.
We were doing a modernization program similar to what we had at Fannie Mae, where we were replacing all the older systems with new technologies. And it was, you have the whole organization in mind, and you're going at, I mean, what people would call a snail's pace in comparison to commercial.
In the private sector, yeah.
Exactly. So it was what I perceived as the slowness that I was very confused about. But over time, you learn to adjust. You learn it. Then the other thing I would say is meetings like you've never understood, like so many meetings, because you're having to get the mass on board and mass approving, and just I think a lot of the formality of it all, and then understanding the GS structure, that you can't get approval from a GS 11, you have to get it from a GS 15. And
what is it, GS 11 versus a 15?
Well, pay one of them, and then authority to sign for things, authority to purchase.
Oh, so those are like levels of employee that have signing authority.
That is correct.
Interesting. And the one thing I do distinctly remember when I worked for software companies 100 years ago was that we had a federal division, we had a government division, and the contracts took forever to close, 2 years plus sometimes. But when they closed, when the deals were done, they were huge. They were very big deals. Yeah.
Which is huge, and which will lead me to what's happened since we left each other at Capco, was that I returned back here to Maine. I'm talking to you in what was the original barn of my home. I came back, bought an old farmhouse. This room used to be a chinchilla house.
No way.
Right.
Your family had a chinchilla farm.
No, absolutely not. My 3 adult sons would have none of that. This home, this was the home of the original Burnham family, and it goes back. I am the fourth owner in 250 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah. This is not uncommon to Maine. but it is a piece of history. And this home had been empty for about 7 years. So I had a lot to do. And so I've learned every stick, every wire, every glass to how to restore. And so
That's amazing.
this is
Now,
what
did the boys help you at all, or you were on your own for this?
they said, you please don't do it. Don't buy it.
Oh no, they tried to talk you out of it.
They don't live in the country now. My sons live all over the world.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, my oldest son drives the Maersk Pittsburgh. He's a captain.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yes, it is. My middle son is an exec with his wife in London. And then my third son is a coach for one of the professional women's soccer teams. They're all over the world. But they love to come now. Yeah.
Well, now that it's done, now that the work is finished.
Exactly. It's like, we'll just settle on in here.
No comment, I guess.
But this is one thing I would say in career, and I would encourage this for everyone: have a hobby, have a not only vocation but avocation. Have something that you can say, I also do this because it gives me joy.
Yeah, that's great.
And this has been truly something I didn't even know that I could do, but I can do, and it's
amazing.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. But
Were
anyway,
you a handy person in your, like in the past, like you've owned and rented homes before. Like, are you a handy woman?
I became a handy woman. I didn't even used to own a hammer.
Oh wow!
Now I own power tools.
My dad's advice to me used to be very simple when it came to like working around the house and doing things, because he used to work on cars, he used to fix the house up or whatever. His advice was, make money, hire someone. I'm like, Dad, that's not very encouraging. Like, it's like you're better off in that. So I was like, it wasn't exactly encouragement from the old man, but he wasn't wrong. But I've gotten better. You can learn things, and that was the positive for me. I've learned quite a bit owning a home. And Absolutely. Wait, I can do this myself or pay somebody that much? Okay, my cheapness is winning out. I'm going to learn how to do that thing.
Absolutely, it dawned on me I can do a lot of these things. It was just so bloody expensive, frankly.
Yeah, sure.
And I started realizing some of these people were just barely out of high school that were doing this work for me, and I realized I'm going to just start watching YouTubes. Yeah,
that's the thing. Like, honestly, the YouTube experience has changed home ownership for me back when I owned a home. Now I'm a renter, but like, I distinctly remember the cost. It was going to cost me like hundreds of dollars to have this, I don't even know what it's called. The handle in the shower thingy. I think it's probably a thingy of some kind. I knew the model. I looked it up. Boom. There's some guy showed me how to do it. It probably took me an hour and a half. It took him probably 15 minutes, but I got it done and I did it, which felt great. So that was amazing. So it must have been amazing to so you refinished the barn and the inside of the house as well, or just the whole property?
I have thought everything was stripped down to the studs.
Wow.
Rewiring, insulation. The walls are, a cement substrate called Durarock. If you know it, you know it. I mean, it's not drywall because I wanted to use plaster, so it had the old world effect.
Sure.
And so, all of this has been hand plastered by yours truly.
That's awesome. It's got to be such a good feeling of pride, though. Like, these are your hands were all over this, right?
Yeah. My neighbors know me as the badass.
It's great. Good for you.
But this is one of the things that I've been doing. I do this, in my off time. Obviously, I do this. I do this on the weekends. Things to pass the winter away. We have long winters here. But I came home here because I came back to Maine. I wanted to come back. It's, these are my roots.
Sure.
I was able to pick up subcontracting work with the federal government and work as a remote worker. So I've just gone from prime to, government prime to government prime as a subcontractor for them, either the prime or the subprime, I should say.
Could you explain that to people who don't know this prime versus subcontractor, all those? Could you help somebody understand that? Like, yeah. I know, but not everyone knows.
Absolutely. So in the government structure, the government puts out bids for work. Government, as it's continuing to shrink, which it is, this mass layoff started with the Clinton era.
Mm.
It didn't just start, and it has been continuing to shrink. And as it continues to shrink, the private sector continues to have more opportunity up until recently. And with how it's done is that the government puts out bids. It's called an RFP, a request for a proposal. And the bids go out, and then people that are qualified, groups of people, organizations that have met a certain qualification, and those qualifications range in, the size of the company, the longevity of your corporation, your specialty. Are you do you meet a certain qualifications for cleared resources, meaning security clearance and such.
Yeah.
And then you have the privilege. It is a privilege to bid on these contracts. And then you go back and forth, and at some point after they receive your response, there may be some some further question and answer time. There's a proposal session. You may bid on these on the work using what we call orals, which is where you present to the government. And I've been a part of all of this many times. And then if you win the bid, you win the contract, you get a contract, and the contract is generally multi-year. So these are usually very nice, steady pieces of work.
Sure. Those projects are big. Things move, it takes time. You've got to execute. I'm sure the government has rigorous standards around testing and quality and making sure things like, that we're not just slapping stuff into production, right? I hope not.
It's not a slap into production, but it waxes and wanes. It's different for each agency. It's different within each agency for the organization. But I can tell you, hands down, the sort of the mindset that the federal employee has it easy or is sort of a slacker because it was slow. It couldn't be farther from the truth.
I believe that.
I have worked with some of the most dedicated, hardworking people that just want to do a good job to serve our country in their own way. And I'm fiercely proud of these people. So,
yeah. No, nobody goes into a job. Well, I shouldn't say nobody, but most people don't go into a job, particularly in public service or in government, to just ride, to punch a clock and just do your thing. Like, you go in for a reason. You're going to inherently make less money than in the private sector.
That is right.
So you've got to be doing this for some other motivation, serving the country, serving your community, serving a particular function, and your passion. Every government worker I've ever worked with, adjacent to, like the Fannie Mae folks, were extremely passionate, and most folks are that in that realm, even though there was a public-private, right? But even everyone's passionate about what they do. They're trying to do the right thing by their customers. So whoever their customers might be, yeah. But you were saying between prime and subprime. So you moved from a prime to a subprime.
So there's always a prime, somebody who owns the bid, owns the contract.
I see.
They're considered the prime. Now, they often leverage what they don't have with other contracting groups, and that becomes the subprime. So, for example, if we owned a company together and we didn't have the resources or the specific skills, but we know another group that does, we'll join force with them and we'll call that the subprime. Got it. Okay. So where I would fit into that is either I would be hired on by the prime or the subprime.
I see. Okay.
And I would carry on as either the prime or subprime. It generally was a blurred, workforce.
Sure.
We didn't often, it wasn't generally an us and them in that case. So that was, that worked out well. But what brings me up to this point is last year, I recognized that AI and ML are taking our technology by force. And I did not know the technology. And I knew that as a longstanding data architect in our industry, that I couldn't just be somebody who drew beautiful boxes with nice colors and fonts and generated schema and passed it over to a database architect anymore. Yeah. That my role had to just blow up into full life cycle solutions development.
Yeah.
So I went back to school and I went to MIT and for applied data science, and I had this boot camp, as I mentioned earlier, to learn how to learn how to build machine learning models and then how to train a model. And I also, went to Oxford. I mean, these are virtual courses, mind you, and to learn the ethics behind this, which is just absolutely fascinating,
I'm sure.
and a little, and a little fearing too, as well, because this stuff has an enormous ramification to our society. So I did that, and I returned to the workforce in late January, only to realize there's no work in federal contracting right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's uh it's a sin, honestly. Like I think the approach, one of the things we try to steer very clear of is politics on this podcast, frankly, but I don't think we can avoid it when we're talking about people who are just basically literally cut with a chainsaw by the richest man on earth. So I'll just leave that alone. But I don't think it's right, and I don't think it's. I mean, can we be smart about reducing, you know, cost in all companies in the federal government, like you said earlier, right? The Clinton administration started the process of
Mhm.
trimming the government, et cetera. But to cut at random and to let people go. So I'm on a rant. I'll get off my rant. I think it's complete rubbish. But how did it impact you? Tell me about your experience.
So I found myself without a contract, and I have found that I have interviewed, I have put out probably well over 200 applications now, and I realize now, first of all, being out of work will humble you. It'll make you grateful for all that you do have and what you had before, and I have made several new friends. I'm treating this as a great new adventure. That I've made some great friends with different recruiters and different potential employers, whether we're going to remain connected or not.
Hmm.
That's sort of our life. That's life.
Yeah,
Um,
time will tell. Yeah.
I've taken the opportunity to spend every single day learning more craft.
Hmm.
I learned Microsoft Data Fabric, which is an overall
Hmm.
data tool. It's akin to Databricks for those of you that know these data tools. And just trying out case studies on with different cloud tools, and I read feverishly, and I believe that it's making me a better potential candidate, which you were honing our skills, right?
Yeah.
And I can tell you that I've interviewed with bots at this point. I've had two interviews with artificial intelligent bots.
I'm like flabbergasted. So you have a virtual conversation. You're real, but the other person on the other side of the conversation, your interviewer is a machine.
That's right.
And what in the world? Like, what was that visual experience like? Was it just a voice? Was it a video
No,
chat?
it was an avatar with a voice. Mhm. and and it is hard to get. It's really hard to get your head in the right space to do this. And I mean, I'm not good at I'm not good at everything.
None of us are.
One of the things I've been told I'm good at and I like doing is public speaking. So
Hmm.
I had to put on my public speaking hat
Yeah.
and pretend just pretend that you're just speaking to the public. So that was strange, and it's where it appears that this is where where hiring process is going. I've also learned that the hiring process involves having resumes that scan what they call the ATF system,
Okay.
applicant tracking, something, and you have to have your resume in a certain format, which I was busy writing and my accomplishments or things I'm proud of, and no. You have to check the box sort of thing. So that's very important, or your resume won't even reach it to the hiring desk.
So how you structure your content, how you just like how it matches the job description.
That's right.
One of the things we talked a bit about is using like AI to customize your resume for the job and then to have it find gaps, et cetera. But you're saying that's mandatory. Like you can't even, that's not a nice to have. You've got to do that basically. It's got to fit perfectly.
It has to fit very, very well. You have to be a good fit in your wording just to get the door open. And what I've also found with like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity. With these things, you cannot just leave it to that, even though you're
Oh
literally
no.
becoming sort of this mass mailer,
Yeah.
mass applicant, if you will. You have to review every single one because I've had ChatGPT just it dropped Deloitte off my resume.
Yeah, you need to own your pen. Yeah, no. I mean, these tools, I look at them as AI assist. They're assistants. You need to make sure it's correct.
Yes.
And all of that. But so, could we just go back to the bot for a second? Because I'm still blown away by this concept.
Me
So you
too.
got this avatar in front of you. This, again, this, not that this is relevant, but I can't help but ask it. I just feel like it's gendered. Like, did they have a persona of a male or female or any like what was
Um,
that like? Did they try to
it,
make it human?
it was a female voice, and I'm not.
Okay.
And it was a female avatar.
Okay.
She sort of had sort of this sort of do.
Okay. Like, I'm not like, we're gonna be crystal clear here. I'm fascinated by the experience.
I
It's
don't
not
think she was. Yeah, it.
it.
I had to practice. So for those of you that are also enduring this, look at the YouTubes on this. There are stuff out there
Oh
for
wow.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, and practice, practice, practice because you've got to get your head in the right space. And
So I'm guessing it's probably like not good form to laugh at the thing, right?
yeah, I found myself at one point forgetting that I was doing this, and I made sort of a crass joke, and then I pulled myself back, and I thought, who cares?
Right. It's a machine. Oh my god.
Yeah. But this is,
I can't.
I mean, I think this is our new economy of hire, and I I will share this with you is that um, I was told before that ageism is real,
Hmm.
and it's limiting those of us who are still very able to work and want to have a desire to do so.
I love work. Like,
I
frankly,
love work. I
we do
love
this because we love what we do, right? It's
I
not a question.
love what I do.
Yeah.
I don't, yeah, and I think the only aspect about it that I don't love is when my flight is delayed coming home.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And for those listeners out there that have travel plans in the next, I don't know, maybe 1 to 100 months, don't go to Newark. I don't know if you've heard about this, but on my flight back from a business trip, I was coming home Friday morning. I got on the early flight, so I'd be home by 2:30. 7.5 hours later, I landed at LaGuardia through Chicago. It was a disaster, and apparently Newark is falling apart. So, if you hear this, stay the hell away from Newark. Okay, sorry, that's my
Amen.
PSA right there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, we
Yeah.
can get by with a little help from our friends, right?
Well, I think it's that for at least for Newark, it's a confluence of there's a runway under construction.
Yeah.
There's job cuts and
Yeah.
imagine trying to find one of the most stressful jobs as an air traffic controller, a federal worker, right? So you're going to try to find somebody who in this economy in this day and age is getting cut with a chainsaw, right? And then these are the ramifications. We can't hire people because what kind of job security are you going to get with that, right?
Right.
All right, I did it again. Sorry.
And and the infrastructure is wobbly. I mean, the screens are going blank for like almost a minute.
Yeah, that's what I
These
read
people
yesterday.
are going on trauma leave.
Yeah,
It's
the radar just goes out for a minute and a half. It's insane.
these
So,
people take their job seriously as they should. But
yeah, this notion of people are
yeah.
freeloaders that's got to stop.
So I've been interviewed by. We'll go back to the whole bot thing.
Yes, yes, yes. Back to
So
the back to the bot.
yeah. So I've come back to the bots. I've got I've interviewed with the bots. I've interviewed with humans. I've had some
Sarah,
yeah.
which one did you like better?
Yeah, that's right. I like the British speaking bot.
You like that? Okay, honesty is our policy here, so thank you for that.
I like the British speaking bot. He was so very polite.
You fancied him over the other bot.
I did. She had the good updo, and she was her voice was slow, but I liked him better.
Okay, that's wild, wild, wild world we
Right?
live in.
It's George Jetson stuff. Anyway,
Yeah, it is George Jetson stuff. Yeah.
I've been in my interviewing experience. I've been told cut the last 10 years, 15 years off your resume.
Hmm.
Been told to remove my graduation year from
Yep.
my college.
Yeah.
I've been told to dye my hair. I've been told to, I've been told that I needed to just forget all the foundational years that I had in this industry. And I will tell you that I did all except color my hair.
For you. I mean, that who would have told? Who told you that? Like a recruiter, or account? Like where
um,
did that go from?
It was from a senior leader in an organization who was a friend of a friend who was reaching out to me and just trying to help me. And in his mind, he's trying to help me. And he told me that he was the one that told me about the ATF score on these resumes being scanned.
Yeah.
Because of him, I did change my resume. I learned about ATF scan, changed it, and the volume of callbacks and activity, it definitely increased. So it's true. It is
Mm.
true. And I did cut the last, you know,
You,
12 years off my first 12 years, which is heartbreaking for me because they were some of my best some of the best foundation I ever had. And which leads me to ageism. And
mm,
I just want to say this to the world. This is my PSA. I do not understand why in our culture, why we do not value people in our middle years and like latter, or like maybe a decade or less before we will retire years kind of thing, kind of years, um, because we're now childless. We don't have to focus on little people and swapping schedules and the myriad of issue with a young home, a young household. We're dedicated. We know where to strike the hammer.
yeah.
I have learned all these cloud tools now on my own
Mm,
because I learned the formative tools.
sure.
And
Yeah.
I am turned down for jobs because I don't have 5+ years in AIML, hands
Mm,
on, boots on the ground. And I just think I I picked that up myself. Like I know this skill because I know all these other skills that came before. And for people to think that we're here in technology today and it just like it was just born yesterday
last week. Yeah. Yeah.
is just a superfluous
Yeah.
notion because everything was been built upon something that came before, and we have a really deep, wide skill set. We also, as workers, we have kicked all the doors on how far can you be, how far can you be a jerk, how far can you be, an enabler,
Sure.
how do you win,
Mm,
how do you not win,
yeah.
and um and how do you just be kind,
Yeah.
how do we're a better employee now.
It's funny you say that because not funny is totally the wrong word. It's appropriate, right? Because I think what a lot of hiring decisions are made around age, in my opinion, age-related hiring decisions are like, oh, I can get three programmers for the price of one senior person. Like, what, it's going to be so much more better. But I think your notion about knowing where the line is, knowing how to kick open the door, knowing like the degree of productivity and experience, and the
Mhm.
ability to be much more efficient and get things done in a much less amount of time, um,
Mhm.
breaks that economic argument. And in my opinion,
Absolutely.
I
Just
think, yeah.
there's a certain amount of professionalism that you cannot just come out of the gate and
Yeah.
ever understand.
No, and let's call it out here, right? Where else would we be with all these without having just this plenitude of dad jokes and mom jokes? Like, I have to. Sorry, but no, but coming back to the serious, I can't help myself sometimes. But I do think
Okay.
it's. Have you found strategies? I mean, the hair color thing is, to me, that's a borderline offensive. I understand he was from a good place, right? So that's at least one piece of
No, he
information.
is my friend. Yeah, I know
But
he cares about me.
yeah, that's the thing is you don't necessarily know. But are there other? So I get it. So one would be chopping off, removing your graduation date. Which, funny enough, like I guess I've just done these things without being coached. Remove the graduation date. I think and then chopping off or my resume is now selected career highlights.
No,
Uh, yeah,
like,
So with that in mind, other suggestions, other tips for folks, older folks,
yeah, absolutely.
like myself out there, necessarily looking for the next exciting gig.
Absolutely. When don't just apply to a job, try to find the recruiter for that job. The human connection is truly what's opened the doors for me. I still don't, I don't have work yet. I believe I will have work. I still believe I will. And I can tell you, I, I have had the best experiences in this exercise, just getting to a real person,
Hmm.
screw the bot, man. And,
British accent and all, just the heck with that.
um, also, screw the aptitude test. I've taken several aptitude tests, and I was told, "Oh, you scored relatively high." And I thought, to match boxes to triangles, like, stop it.
So aptitude, like a technical screening, like can
Mhm.
you write
More
SQL?
than coding. I've done coding tests, but it was more than
Okay.
that. They give you a series of triangles at certain in 3D angles, and you have to match what's the one is going to fit into the slice of this one, and so they're looking for how you just sort of like can figure out things on a you know in a
Oh, like
three dimensional
problem
manner.
solving. Like,
Right,
I see. So
and
it's like
it's time based. Like, you got to see it, see it, see it.
oh, I see, I see.
I suppose those people that have been playing video games for a long time are great at it.
Yeah,
Mario fans, I don't know.
yeah. No, I'm not a gamer.
Yeah.
I appreciate everything that's gone into it, but
I
I just, but
so I would just say the human touch. Just
yeah,
take these for what they are. Certain people believe that they're rendering down to the right candidate. I say they're rendering down to a bot in the human flesh.
yeah.
A widget person. They're so with that said, get to the person. Be kind.
Yeah.
Everybody's having a struggle. I
Yes.
hear from a lot of foreign recruiters, people in India, people in Pakistan, and I ask them, how are you doing? And they're like, "Thank you for asking." And I'll say, "No, is it raining there?"
Yeah,
And
have a
before you know it,
conversation.
you can hear their dog barking. You bring that up, and and I'm not doing it to be, fakey, like, oh, this will win their hearts. I'm doing it
Right.
because it helps me too.
Yeah.
They're not doing this because they just feel like they're doing it because they have a need to, and everybody has a struggle. So, with that, be kind.
Yeah.
Also, use this time just to reach out to people that you have worked with in the past and you believe have your back, and network, network, network. Yes, like
Yeah.
my boss, my former boss. But also reach out, and this is a hard one, but I'm going to say it because it's going to help. Take this opportunity to reach out to people that you did not have a good experience with,
Mm,
that you either owe an amends to,
mm,
or you want to show them that you're the bigger person.
mm.
And I've done this a few times, a lot actually, because it was two-way. As a friend of mine says, you can be quite pig-headed, and I can.
We all have our room for improvement. Yeah.
I can be so sure.
Right. Listen, that's the thing that we technical people, particularly when we get into these debates and arguments about how things should be, we're in the abstract and trying to make the abstract practical, right? And then my way is definitely better than your way, Sarah, and
Absolutely.
Mike's way, and this, and you start getting into this whole thing. Let's go to neutral corners, take a
Right.
breath, and then. But I understand you mean. We get very passionate. It's our craft, right? It's things we've been working on, for many years, and you get very passionate about your perspective on how to do a thing. And I'll be very honest. I've said things. There's a few people I would like to make amends to, things that have come out of my mouth, and I've gotten kicked under the table. Like, just said that. I'm like, what? It's the truth, though. And they're like, oh my god, I've said that. Once you say it's the truth, though, you know you're on dangerous ground. At least I know that about me. Truth is,
Sometimes it's taken me a while to sort of see that, and I'll just say that this is a great opportunity to just heal, and
yeah,
and to help others heal too, for
no,
for
it's
those
great.
of us, because
That's good advice.
Yeah, none of us get out of here unscathed.
Yeah, listen, I want to tell you this. You should take your own lap, your own victory lap. And as much as this is hard, you've done some amazing things, not just before, but now, like
Thank you.
refinishing the barn and restructuring your house and
Mm,
getting all this training. Like you need to make sure you give yourself the grace, if you would,
very
about, where you are, and you will find work. It's not a question. I think it's going to be like anything. It's persistence, it's networking, it's being the good person. You've always, I distinctly remember, as much as we would have our challenges and our difficulties and this and that, you always had everyone's best interest in mind. You
Thank
never,
you.
like, it wasn't always about Sarah, and I appreciate
It
that.
wasn't. It wasn't.
Well, now a little bit might have changed. No, it was.
Um,
You were very good about it. You were a very good teammate.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. We do love our craft, and it's just so much more than just making a solution.
Hmm.
It's helping evolve society in a way. This sounds sort of heady and all that. It does. Like if we can walk away saying we improve things,
Mm.
it's it's a great feeling. And I don't know what comes next. I was wondering this morning, like a year from now, what will I say to myself? Well, where will I be? I wonder what I'll be doing. I mean, if anything, I thought, I'll never leave Maine again. I'll never leave. And now I'm thinking maybe this will be the best thing that ever happened to me. When Deloitte pulled me out of Maine, I mean, well, they didn't pull me. They said, Bearing Point told me, you either transfer over to government or
Mm.
you just don't have a job. We don't have any work there in Maine.
Yeah, yeah,
And I just thought, how can you do this to me? It was the
yeah.
best thing that ever happened to me. I needed it.
You were in Virginia, right? If I remember
Yes, I
correctly.
was. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was in Leesburg. Yes.
Leesburg. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, they transferred me down there, as I mentioned, and it was. So we don't also when people are looking for work, as I am, uh, be open. What I've been pursuing my master's in cybersecurity.
That's awesome.
Thank you, because I think also when you're looking for employees, such as myself, you should be looking for,
Perhaps. Mhm.
no pitch intended, that you should be looking for lifelong learners. And one of the things I have found is a common denominator in those of us that have been in management consulting for a long time is that we have curious minds.
Yes.
I mean, you stand us up in a group, we're a room full of smarty pants, and we're always curious. We
Oh,
are.
yeah.
Even when we're stubborn, as you mentioned, like we're curious, and I think that's important. So I'm pursuing my master's, and
Oh, good.
my professor has offered me some grant work, and I'm helping stand up a cyber range
That's great.
and being a part of that, and so it's small pay, it's like minimum wage. So, but for me, I'm thinking, be open, be
Yeah. Learn.
curious. You don't know where it's going to go.
Hmm.
And nobody gives us a lobotomy at the door.
That's, yeah. You just went down an old sci-fi path. Um, what was that? There was a bunch of stories about you would go in, you do your job, and then on your way out, they removed your memory for that experience because it was so top secret.
If only they could.
Yeah, you're right. But no, but I think that's another excellent point. Like this notion of being a lifelong learner and looking for people,
Mhm.
regardless of age, right? I think as consultants, one of the things we did is, particularly as management consultants, and a lot of the younger folks early in their career, I would say, is this notion of we'll throw them into a situation like, can you figure it out? And I forget who just recently said this. There's a solution. Actually, it was Mike. It's funny. It was Wasey, and it's like we can solve this problem. Somebody else has solved it, so we can figure out how to do it. We just need to find the path. And if you're always looking at challenges like that, and you're looking at this experience as, okay, I've got some downtime. Let me learn about cybersecurity. And frankly, all the stuff that I've read in that realm, all the use of artificial intelligence, the threat vectors that are crossing, cybersecurity now are at levels we've never seen before,
That is
and
correct.
they're not gonna diminish. And you've got these human farms of people trying to scam, in these borderline country of, like, between the edge of Cambodia and Vietnam, and they're
Excellent.
just there with they're basically hostages operating scam farms, and they're just absolutely lucrative, making tons and tons of money, and it's not going to stop, right? So
Not going to
we use
stop.
AI to get better at it, and then we use AI to kind of, it's almost this like this war of, this escalating war of intensity, and I don't know who's
Absolutely.
going to win.
Absolutely. I mean, when you think that your not only your identity could be stolen, but your right to fight for it back.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
not could your own, or you're not even stolen, but you could have something used against you that you have no
You know
ability.
what's there. Yeah, or
Right.
it might not even be realistic. Yeah, real.
And so for me, being a longstanding data solution consultant, which is what I like to call myself, it's pretty broad, but it's based on data.
Yeah,
That it's
problems through
that
solving problems.
it's yeah, I feel more than ever that making sure that humanity is protected in the
Mm.
use of their information at the even macro or micro level.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's good because it's important. And this goes back to, another one of those like advice from the trenches years forward. It's great to work and make money, and you're learning like your craft, you're doing your thing. But I find, at least I found for myself, I've been in privacy, safety, and security for a while now, and I really like the fact that I'm protecting our users. I like
Yes,
the fact that I'm not just for avoiding fines. Like that's an important thing for working for a company, right? Is to to protect the company's assets, but also, and frankly more importantly, like you're protecting the assets of those people who are using your software. And that to me is that's that the ability to have that connection, that passion for like solving those types of problems that are very real and that impact so and so's life. I think that's great.
it is
I
great.
it just drives, it
You
gives me.
should. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, no,
I'm
no.
so good that way. We should want that for all of our employees. If there was something I would look for in when I hire people, it is the passion, the passion in the work in general. It doesn't have to be for that school, that tool, that skill. I don't care about that. Generally, like the fact when they have crossover skills, as I was
Mm,
mentioning earlier, the ability to learn something else because you know the foundation,
yeah.
but also just the passion of wanting to do the right thing.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
not a punch the clock. It's not an hourly Joe thing. You should be dreaming it at some point.
Yeah. Especially when it's hard. That's my
That's
favorite.
when yeah.
Especially when you've got that problem that you just can't lick, and you're like, okay. And again, it's harder now because there's so much more noise, but it's also easier now because like you can search, you Google search or fill in, talk to your favorite bot and whatnot. But like the quality of the information has gone way down. Right. So I still find myself calling my friend, Joe, or my friend, Sarah, or my friend Mike, or it's
Right.
like, hey, I've got a problem. Can have you ever solved something like this? Or people at work or your network or whatnot. And it helps you sharpen your own, your own skills through talking to other people. It's only so
Absolutely.
much you can read, but it's like, hey, I did this thing, and yeah, the book said that, but it broke, and here's how it broke, right?
Mm. If I have one regret of my career, it would have been that I left Deloitte too early.
Hmm.
So I was up for a promotion at Bearing Point, and when they transferred me over, it kind of got lost in the mix, and I didn't have the voice to say, "Hey, I just," or maybe I did, and I didn't say it right, or I didn't say it convince. Who knows?
It didn't land,
It
or
didn't
you
land.
didn't say it, or it didn't land.
Mhm.
Yep.
And I was passed over 4 years in a row, and
Hmm.
it hurt, and it hurt. And so what Deloitte did in effort to help me get ready, I think finally like they were paying attention because I'm crying, just carrying on profusely like sort of. I won't belabor it. It was ugly, but they gave me a mentor.
Hmm.
His name was Derek Massengill, and he was excellent.
Hmm.
And he was actually, Tom, he was, and not to butter your bread, and I'm going to, he was like you. And
Oh, thank
he
you.
he opened doors, and he would get me to think. He'd say, "What do you want to?" I'd say, "I'm going to this meeting." He'd say, "What do you want to accomplish?" Look at the three goals you want coming out of this. Da
Hmm.
da da. He would get me to focus, and then grow upon what I knew before. He would give me encouragement. That's not so hard, but he would opened my eyes to
Mm,
how does someone in my field as a leader think
mm,
versus
mm,
just me, shouting from below in the glass ceiling. And I should have stuck it out, but I was again pigheaded. So I would say to somebody, you know,
mm.
if a company is trying to help you, notice that, make note of it.
Oh, that's a really good point,
Don't
right?
throw it away.
Because if they're making an effort,
They did.
but like again, give yourself a little grace. Like 4 years is a long time to be passed over, right? And I know this because I've had folks working on my teams that think it's a time based thing. I've done this for
Yeah.
4 years. I should just get it, and unfortunately, that's not enough.
Mhm.
Generally speaking, a manager needs you did this thing that went above and beyond. Like you did your job, you're doing your job great, and you're operating at this level. We're compensating you, you're getting a bonus, you're getting your pay or whatnot. But like, how do you tell the story
Mhm.
about how you go from one level to the next? And I went through this, frankly, not too long ago, watching someone I was trying to get promoted,
Mm.
part of my team, and really was annoyed and frustrated for them because I could not communicate as effectively what they had accomplished. Like the structure is a bit odd. Your manager represents you all the time, but like the idea was that they would make your case and et cetera. And like, don't you see this person's great? And I'm like, it's not enough, right?
Yeah.
And I just found out like a year and a half later they got promoted, and a lot of it had to do with their director basically telling the story about all of her accomplishments. And
Mhm.
I was overjoyed by it. But I'm going to meet with her director next week and be like, okay, what'd you do?
Right. Right. Right.
Right?
Yeah.
She got this person promoted, and I'm over the moon about it. And I want to like, okay, I didn't succeed, and maybe she accomplished more. Maybe it was more time in the role. I don't know exactly. You can appreciate this because this person was a taxonomist like yourself, and it's not an easy it's not an easy role. Semantics is not for everyone,
No.
right? And so I plan on sitting down with the my friend the director and ask her what the trick was. What did she do? How did she tell the story? What was it the evidence itself, or was it the story, or was it both? But your
Mm.
message, I think, is an important one, is a very important one too, is sometimes you have to sit back, put your emotions over here, and say, this company is making an investment in me
Yeah.
by assigning a mentor to me. And they're doing this, and maybe I shouldn't be so hasty and bail, which it sounds like you went, is that when you left, basically?
It was.
Yeah.
Not only did they give me a mentor, but they tried hard to get the concept across, and you're alluding to it around if you want that role, you have to prove to us that you can operate in that role.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite understand that. I thought that just I could rest on the laurels of what I had done.
Yeah.
And they said, no, no, no. Like you have to be thinking like a senior manager. You can't be thinking like just a senior specialist here.
Mm.
This is what's required of this role. You have to be operating in your day in and out life of that role.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And that's in a way saying not only will I just step up the work and work a little longer, that's not really what they're saying. They're saying you have to think and operate in your everyday life now, in your everyday work life as this higher role.
Cannot agree with you more.
Mm.
I've coached many a mentee and myself, like, to get to that next level, you need to demonstrate
Yes.
thinking at that next level. And it's not more effort. It's just not. It's
No.
like effort's important. You have to put it in to learn and to grow, etc. But it's not enough to just put in more hours and to slog your way through. You've got to restructure the way you're thinking at that next level so that you're able to. And a lot of times to get to the the senior manager level, it's delivery through other people. It's not doing the work
Yes.
yourself. It's not. A lot
Yeah.
of times the hard part about management, at least from my limited experience, has been it's not about what you can do, but it's what you can have others do with you or for you or through you, and execute your vision. And it's taken me quite some time to get there, and I'm not fully there because I still want to like, okay, hold on, let me just do the damn thing. But that's not that's that there's no learning there for the other person, right?
you've just, John, reminds me how critical it is to think like a team
Hmm.
and deliver as a strong individual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget when it was in my consulting career, somebody had described it as a team sport. And it couldn't be more true, right? It couldn't be more true. It's you've got to be a strong contributor on the team as an individual, but it's very much a team. And we're as good or bad as our weakest
Mhm.
links,
That's right.
right? So I know we're coming up on the hour. Thank you so much. I have one last question for you. And if you could give advice to your younger self, you got a time machine, you can go back in time. And we're not giving investment advice. We tried that. That didn't work. So what advice would you give to your younger self?
Subscribe to the well-respected trade magazines such as Wired, such as AMC, and The Atlantic, and
Okay.
just be a fervent reader.
Hmm.
Look at the trends. Immerse yourself. Since our background is based on technology, know what's coming,
Yeah.
and it helps you. It gives you a good feeling that you're part of that. Do not hesitate to bring someone else along. You're always in some sort of a leadership role, even at the lowest level. When you start out, there's always someone that you may be a little smarter than. Okay, you don't have to remind them I'm a little smarter than you, but what you can do is you can help bring them along.
Hmm.
That gains the respect of you more. You have a greater visibility in that. You make a great friend, somebody who's generally almost always. I've never had where they weren't grateful for what I offered them.
Sure.
But also, I believe with all my heart that the only way to get to heaven is to take someone with you.
That's my twisted mind went right away to Jim Jones, but that's
no, no, we're not talking culty stuff. We're talking.
This is my brain. No, but
Kind, help
the,
the person next to you, and you will never do wrong by that. Never.
no, I do. I agree. The kindness and helping others and bringing them along. I think I can't agree with you more. I think it's pardon my snark, but I do think you're absolutely right. I think it's you get more satisfaction from. At least I get more satisfaction by helping someone and partnering with them. And to me, it always comes down to the people that I'm working with. Like I look at it that way, and I can't agree with you more. I think you remember the people you work with. I could reach out after 10 years. We could have a great conversation like this one today, of which I am very, very grateful for. I know, we've all got busy schedules. It's the weekend. We're not working. And, and your full-time job now is finding your next full-time job. So I know you are working. It's not like you're not. And we'll talk later about some of my friends I can connect you to and folks in the network, because network, right? But thank you very much, Sarah, for taking your time today and enjoyed our conversation. Thank you.
Absolutely.